Hi, I'm Philip Anthony Albertelli, and welcome to The Week in Doubt, a podcast for atheists, agnostics, and whoever. And this is episode 24. For you regular listeners, don't be surprised if you aren't hearing the theme music this week. As you probably know, I've been upping both the old and recent episodes onto YouTube and adding some basic visuals and attempting to monetize them. Well, this is the second time where I was declined the opportunity to monetize a video because of a copyright claim. And I looked into it, and what's going on, and I guess it's happening to a lot of other people on YouTube, is there is a company called Dance All Day. And I guess it's kind of an umbrella group that promotes and sells the music of various artists. And it turns out what's happening is their artists are using loops in their music, and then they're claiming copyrights. And I just assume everyone knows what a loop is. If you're not super tech savvy or haven't worked with any music software, a loop is just when you have a small clip of music. I don't know, it could be 30 seconds or longer. That's just a number I'm throwing out there. It could be violins, it could be piano, it could be drums, it could be guitar, whatever. And a lot of times you get a bunch of free loops with your software. Like I use Garageband to do this podcast, and you get some free loops, but I also have some additional Garageband jam packs that also come with additional loops. And so I have the right to use whatever loops come with that software. But what turns out is you have these artists out there, these kind of amateur startup artists, independent artists, perhaps I should say, rather than amateur, and they're incorporating these sound loops into their music. And then they claim copyright. So when the automated software scans your uploads on YouTube, it says, hey, something's wrong here. We just recognized the same music that's in your podcast with this third party content, and they already copyrighted it. So it must mean that you're stealing from them or infringing on their copyright or something. So it's frustrating. I kind of want to blame the artists or this company, Dance All Day. But at the same time, I guess in a way, fair is fair. If you write a song and you incorporate some loops that came with software you purchased, you have every right to do that. And in the end, as long as you incorporate the loops in a creative way and you kind of made the song as a whole your own, then it's still your music. I guess you have a right to copyright it. But obviously, common sense would say, since everyone who bought that software also gets those loops and the right to use them, that you shouldn't be stopped from monetizing your own content or accused of copyright infringement for using loops that everyone who owns the software has the right to. So it's very bizarre, though. So I've uploaded about 10 episodes of The Week in Doubt so far, and only twice have I been flagged by a notice that same company, Dance All Day, already has a right to that music or to some content in my podcast. And as I said, I mean, you can do a search for it on YouTube. You find there's a lot of other YouTubers out there that are having the same problem. So will I change the theme music? I don't know. I may have been getting tired of it anyway, where it's episode 24 now, and I've been using the same theme music from the get-go. Maybe to completely nullify the chance of this happening again or greatly decrease it, I'll just write my own theme music. Instead of using a loop, I'll just put my musical abilities into use. Anyway, enough of this mundane BS. Onto the religious and philosophical stuff. I'll jump in with a news story. Pat Robertson blames atheists and those who hate God for Wisconsin temple shooting. And that headline is from the HuffPost Religion. And I'm just going to try to play the clip right off my iPad as an experiment instead of trying to download and then edit the clip on my Mac. Let's see just how good this microphone is.
What is it? Is it satanic? Is it some spiritual thing that people who are atheists, they hate God, they hate the expression of God, and they are angry with the world, angry with themselves, angry with society, and they take it out on innocent people who are worshiping God. And whether it's a Sikh temple or a Baptist church or a Catholic church or a Muslim mosque, whatever it is, I just abhor this kind of violence, and it's the kind of thing that we should do something about. But what do you do? What do you do? Well, you talk about the love of God and hope that it has some impact.
What do you do? What do you do? That last bit was me. Pretty good impression, right? Wow, I'm pretty impressed with that sound quality. That wasn't bad for an iPad being recorded onto my little speaker here on my computer desk. But anyway, now for my critique of what Pat Robertson actually said. I first heard this story, as I get a lot of my stories from, by listening to The Young Turks, one of my favorite online shows, and they're also on every night at 7 on Current TV also. And the two co-hosts, Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian, made an excellent point how Harry is blaming these shootings on atheism. And I don't know what the religious beliefs of the movie theater shooter was, or what his religious beliefs were, I should say. But we do know that this guy was a white supremacist. And from what I know about white supremacist movements, what I see on documentaries and news clips and whatnot, they're usually Christian. They're usually, in fairness to Christians, they're a very kind of perverted and far-right fanatical version of Christianity, but Christian nonetheless. And on the Young Turks, they actually played a clip from the History Channel from when they did a special on the KKK, and they show the guys in the robes lighting the crosses and performing whatever ritual it is they do, and they keep repeatedly shouting out for Christ, and they're talking about keeping the white blood pure in the name of Christ and all of this. And I know there's even white supremacist preachers or reverends, whatever you want to call them. And often what they'll do is, I mean, they have to do some real intellectual backflips and contortionist tricks in order to try to hold on to Christianity while professing that only the white race is worthy. Because as we know, anyone who has studied biblical history in the slightest knows that the original Christians were Jews, that Christianity emerged out of Judaism. Jesus was a Jew. His disciples were Jewish. The people he preached to, for the most part, with maybe the rare exception of a Roman in the crowd or something, or maybe a Greek, were the people he preached to, the masses he preached to, were Jews. I don't know if there are really any stray Greeks or Romans in the crowd. That was just total speculation. But there's that story in the Gospels about the centurion who had enough faith to know that all Jesus needed to do was speak and his servant would be healed. So if you believe that story, I guess there was at least one Roman listening. And at that time, when Jesus was still alive, it would have been called Christianity. Christ or Christos is a Greek term that's picked up after what scholars refer to as the Jesus movement spread into the classical world, into the Greco-Roman world. So it wouldn't have been known as Christianity. It would have been known as a Jewish religious movement. Some people might have looked at Jesus as a radical, but he would have been a Jewish radical. But what white supremacists will often do is somehow they go out of their way taking these ridiculous leaps of illogic in order to somehow get Christianity in their fanatic racism to jive or whatever. So what they'll do is they'll find a way of saying that the Israelites were really white and different than the evil Jews, and or something like that. That Jesus and his followers were Aryan somehow, or some ridiculous garbage like that. And as the Young Turks pointed out, they didn't know if this guy was a member of the KKK necessarily. There's lots of different white supremacist groups. But I remember watching a news story, and they had a representative from the Southern Poverty Law Center on, and he had said that this guy was at least thinking about joining the Klan. He was causing trouble for his employer. He wasn't able to take orders from female managers or higher ups or whatever. And I guess he was a bit of a disruption, and they let him go. And he came back actually to retrieve a KKK application that he had thrown in the garbage. But even if he never became a dyed-in-the-wool member of the KKK, he still was, I believe they call it a hammerskin, which is, I guess in the skinhead world, it's kind of higher up on the ladder. I don't know if you have to commit an act of violence to be a hammerskin or not, but it's considered one of the tougher branches of the skinhead movement. So, given the fact that most skinheads, I believe, identify as white Christians, they might say adopt some Nordic or Viking occult symbolism or something similar to what the Nazis did. That's probably where they get it from. They might use the Sieg runes or the Hammer of Thor or something like that. But for the most part, they still identify as white Christians. So this idea about pinning this racist massacre at the Sikh temple on atheists is absolutely ridiculous. As I've said on the show before, unlike some of the famous atheists that I respect, I probably disagree with them in the sense that I believe you can be an immoral atheist. I do think the majority of atheists are sensitive, intelligent people. And as I've explained before, their strong moral sense might be one of the reasons why they doubt the existence of God or a good God, because they're so morally outraged by the suffering that people have to endure in this world, or by the hypocrisy that you often see within religions, etc. But I think you can also have a kind of nihilistic atheist. You can have someone who has a chip on the shoulder against humanity, against society, and maybe they're not the brightest bulb in the draw, but they doubt the existence of God because maybe nothing's ever gone right for them in life or something. So I don't think not every atheist is a secular humanist or a good person. I think the majority of them probably are. And I know the doubters I know in my own life, friends of mine, are very good people with they all have a strong moral compass, just really good, sensitive, smart people. And the prominent atheists that I admire all seem like good, highly educated, I'd say highly moral people. Christopher Hitchens is probably my favorite. He could be kind of cheeky or acerbic, but to me that was part of his charm. But I think one of the reasons he railed against religion so fervently is because he found religion to be maybe intellectually dishonest, maybe to be a cop-out in a certain way. And also, I think he was a really moral guy in things like female or male, forced circumcision for religious purposes, acts of terrorism done in the name of religion, say child molestation, scandals in the Catholic Church, all the different things that you could pin on religion, either rightly or maybe you could argue it's not fair to pin it on religion, that it's people, perverting the religion, not the religion itself. But anyway, I think it's one of the reasons why Christopher Hitchens was a non-believer is because of his sense of moral outrage about some of the injustices he observed in the world, and some of the injustices he thought were all too frequently done in the name of religion. As I sit here talking about moral reasons why someone might doubt the existence of God or distrust religion, I should offer the caveat that for the most part, though, I think with most non-believers, including myself, it's our sense of reason and lack of evidence that leads us to doubt the existence of a personal creator. That and the seemingly man-made nature of religion and concepts of God. I know also the case of Christopher. He's here I am, first name like I knew him. I wish I did have the honor of meeting him. I think he was also really a rebel. So he didn't like the idea of something having, an organization having control over your life, control over your thoughts. And I think he had this kind of big brother view of the Judeo-Christian creator God. And he felt like the church or religion in general had a habit of charging the individual with thought crime. You always had to feel guilty about what you're thinking. You're not allowed to think this. You have to think that. The big guy in the sky is always watching. If you don't do what you're told, you're going to be in trouble. But anyway, back on topic. Where the heck was I? I know I have a tendency to digress and meander. Well, as I was saying, it's ridiculous for Pat Robertson to claim that atheism is somehow responsible for these type of shootings. I think you're more likely to have someone with a mental illness who thinks God is talking to them commit a crime like this than someone who's rational, intelligent, and doubts the existence of God. But even that, I should backpedal right away, because even that, I don't want to demonize people with mental illnesses like schizophrenia, etc., because the majority of them even are nonviolent. I did want to devote a good portion of this show to talking about Alan Watts and different concepts of the quote-unquote one or absolute, the ground of all being. This idea you find especially in Eastern religion about this kind of universal, all-pervading spirit, kind of an impersonal God as opposed to a personal God. It's something I've touched on in a number of episodes that's always fascinated me, and watching some old Alan Watts videos on YouTube had inspired me to want to dedicate an episode to the subject, but I think I've already gone on so long about the other subjects that it doesn't make sense. I might as well just wait and do a separate episode. Might actually close out this episode now, then as soon as I wrap it up, get started on another episode devoted to that. So that's it. I think I'll sign off. So this has been The Week in Doubt. As always, thanks for listening. And if you're a regular listener, you know the drill by now. If you like the show, you can give us a rating on iTunes, Podbean. You could give us a like on YouTube or subscribe. And there I am saying us, using the royal we again. Or had a brain glitch there. Or you could also stop by and like us or me, the show, on Facebook. Just go to Facebook and look for The Week in Doubt. All right. Thank you and goodbye.